Good evening everyone and welcome along to another Monday Night Live here at Precision Golf. Simon and I taking your questions every week at 6 p.m. Well. Last week, if you joined us, we had a little tete-a-tete about who's going to win the US Open. The big question was, who's going to win? I said Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, good shot. I guess round there, my thought was whether just the greens, the aggressive game nature, but you know what, the guy played out of his skin the whole 4 days. Really, really impressive. Box office, quite frankly.
100%. I was listening to Brandel Chambly on the review of the tournament, and he made some really interesting points. I think the first point was how Bryson has had this. People have thought that his short game would be compromised because of the long golf clubs. I think he's done awfully well managing those length of club shafts with the precision needed at Pinehurst. The second one also was routine and with Rory's putting. I think it was a really good point that Rory has stuck so adamantly to his putting routine, and Brandel drew the attention to someone like a Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus, how they very much stalked the putt, got the picture, and when they were ready to go to pull the trigger. I don't know about you, watching that putt, Rory didn't look ready to play that putt. It looked like it was, I'm supposed to go now, so I'm going to go. Look, hindsight's wonderful, but nevertheless, he did putt well for a long and short of the event. Nice to see him front run, but even I got a bit of heartache for him there because that's going to live with him for the rest of his golfing career.
And I think, as you said, he played 14 holes of that last round like a champion. You know, it was, he got really unlucky on 5. Granted, nature of the course, but to miss the bunker and go into the waste area, and actually, look, he dealt with that well, like mentally. The bounce backs around sort of 8, 9, and then that run he went on was sensational. It was. That's what we want to see him doing, and the way that DeChambeau then made that up and down on 8, followed up on 13 with a birdie. The head-to-head was fantastic, but that putt on 16, you watch it back, even without any context of the routine. If you factor in, he hadn't missed in under 3 foot the whole year. If I hadn't missed 500 odd putts in a row from under 3 foot, I wouldn't be hitting it that soft. You just wouldn't even think about it. So he clearly wasn't ready to hit it, and then 18th tee, what's the caddy doing, letting him hit driver? I know Bryson hit driver as well, but you know what? You make par, Bryson's got to make birdie to win. Just what's going on.
Yeah.
Head scramble for Rory, but the caddy should have taken control.
When they level going up the last, because Bryson made par, Rory made bogey.
But you make par, Bryson have to make birdie.
I see what you're saying.
In a US Open last hole, you make par, you're pretty much guaranteed playoff worst.
Oh, absolutely.
In that situation.
Yeah, 100%.
And you just go, look, you've always gone bogey, having been so in control, gone bogey, scramble, par. If I'm the caddy, and this is Rory's bag, or even that.
I mean,
put it in play, put a mid-on on the green, 2 putts, run.
I mean, I think Rich B made a good comment that I think three wood doesn't make it. I think you struggle to make a committed swing. I think it's 4 iron or 5 iron off the tee. My problem, and I tell you,
you didn't hit driver any other round.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a bit of an anecdote. Butch Harmon, when he used to caddy coach Dustin Johnson at the Masters, he said, "Dustin, why are you taking driver on 13 over the corner?" He said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Well, you don't have to." He said, "Yeah, but that's what makes me aggressive." I think the problem that we have on the back of a fumble, I think it's way too easy to go, shouldn't have been hitting driver, and I'm with you on this. But what I would say is, at what point do you stop being the aggressor, and at what point do you become a sort of a pacifier in your strategy? I think at that point, I think Rory was playing well. He was trying to play front foot golf, and I think the play probably was in flow with how he was feeling. That's not to say...
But mid-round on the short putt, or was he saying mid-iron, 4-iron, wedge on? So it's not out of sync with how that course is meant to be played.
Sure. I think it's six or one.
But I get that I'm going to put my foot down and try and win it. I get that. But at a fairway that narrows and goes across you, you're playing to such... where both those guys are hitting to, you're playing to such a narrow bit of fairway.
Yeah.
And then you are playing, granted most of them got lucky during the week, and there were a lot of good lies that they've got in the scrub, but you're playing with chance as to what you're going to have for your second shot. And that's the bit for me. You go, can you hit long iron and like an 8-iron into the green with the pin at the back half on an upslope? You haven't got to get close to wedge it close because it's the only way you can stop it. You've got the situation just didn't call for that for me. But I feel for him because that's a sore one.
Yeah. As usual, we've got both iPads over on my channel, Good Golf Coaching. Head over there and ask us any golf swing questions, any club fitting or equipment. We'll take those on the Precision Golf channel. So this evening we've got Tony by the way in. Nice to have you with us, Tony. Evening, gents. Terrible watching Rory miss out again last night. From your expert eye on his putting, what advice would you give him? Equipment, technique, or is it still just a mental block? Well, for me personally, I think we've just covered it really. I think there is a large element of scar tissue of what's gone on before, and I think Rory, the minute he went down the technical route, I think it was the day that he kind of started to come unravelled. I think when you watched him play the Dunhill and get his tour card and watch how he played those last 2 or 3 holes at St Andrews, and he ran through the finishing line, from that day onwards, it never felt like he was able to blossom as a freewheeling young man. I think he's had a lot of technical stuff that's changed in his golf swing. And I think that, for me, is ultimately what slowed his rate of progression down. That would be my take on it. Yeah,
I think specifically on the putting side of things, he's putted really well with the blade putter. He's putted really well for most of the tournament, and that round putted beautifully with the spider putter, which is a mallet style and a very different setup. So the guy can putt really well. Like, he's been one of the best players around for goodness knows how long. This is a get out your own way thing. This is just a trying too hard to find it rather than just, Valdo said at the Masters, when his first Masters, was on the putting green with Nicholas, do I try to make it happen or should I just let it happen? And Nicholas just said to him, yeah, I know what you mean. But ultimately it's the just let it happen. You're good enough, but it's hard when you've been out there that long to get out your own way. If we had the answers, we'd be selling it to Rory. He's got the best advice, allegedly, open to him. He can't get it done. Gonna have to find a way. Gonna have to find a way. Tony goes on to ask, and do you have the Smoke TD Max heads and Acra TZ6 CB shafts yet? Would be great to see you hit the 9-degree head with the STD and the CB TZXs in 50 or 60 to see the difference. Big fan of the TZ6s. So heads here, shafts due in imminently. So hopefully next week we'll be able to do that one for you, Tony. That was a mouthful. Nice to have Niles in the house. Welcome along this evening, Niles. Think it was more Rory's approach game and unreasonable many unlucky breaks, and that was enough to keep him from winning. I don't agree with that, Niels. I think when you got one unlucky break. Yeah. I think you look at the field, it always felt like good lie, bad lie. Good lie. I don't think anyone had a real run of luck in either way. So many guys hit great shots, ran off the green, and vice versa. I think there was more shots into greens that got unlucky than shots in fairways that got lucky, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think I think ultimately it comes down to a putt, right? And that was the difference between winning and losing. Yeah. I mean, you could argue unlucky on 5 to run off the green, miss the bunker, and go into the scrub. Yeah. But not unlucky to go long on 15. I think it was 15, where you just can't go long. Right? That's just judgment, sadly.
Daniel Winterbottom. Good evening, Daniel. That's a name I don't think I'm familiar with. Evening, gents. I'm looking at new wedges. Tried SM10s on course in high and low bounce. 460, struggles with both. What are your ideas and thoughts?
I'm potentially tried both high and low on the
60. That's how I read it. Yeah.
The only thing, kind of without knowing anything more about it, the Vokey wedges are a little heavier than some. So particularly when you go to the 54, 56, mainly it's those. There's a bit of a jump in weight from the 50, 52s, but they do swing a little bit heavier than some. It depends where you're playing as well. If you're playing over here, then the grass is a little bit tighter. Actually, some of the low bounce models actually still have quite a lot of bounce on, so we end up just smoothing off the ridge on the bottom of the sole. So, but it could be a number of things, but the one that kind of stands out a little bit as a possibility could be the head weights on the Vokeys being fairly strong.
Yep, very good. We'll head over to my channel. Lee Roberts, hey guys, a mad finish to the golf last night. Gutted for Rory, absolutely. Lee goes on to say, Stuart, I know you're on Operation 115. For those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, I posted up a little video of me hitting driver, trying to get up to a bit more clubhead speed of 115. At what point or time would you consider a refit on clubs if you gained an extra or you gained, for example, 105 to 115 and gained 150 to 160 ball speed? Me personally, when I was fitted, I was at 110, so I've not played a lot of golf and I've lost a little bit of speed. I've got a bit leaner working out in the gym, so trying to get a little bit more speed back. I'm out of match practice. So for me personally, going from 110 or 111 where I was when I was fitted to 115, I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference, is it?
Yeah, it's one of those, it depends how you're doing it. If you're doing it through just gaining speed because your technique's improving, then actually very little needs to change. If you go and hulk up and get on the roids and bulk up, then you're changing your musculature a little bit and possibly muscle groups you're using and how you're building that speed. So the two are quite different. If you're just getting quicker, chances are the clubs are still going to work very well. If you're changing the way you're developing that speed, then that'll have an impact. Deepak
gives us a little wave. Thanks, Deepak. Nice to have you along. Gary Satterfield always keeps us on our toes. Doing press-ups last week. Hey guys, how's it going? Really well, Gary. Thank you. Would it be unusual for a guy with a slower swing speed to have more control and maybe even hit it further with a stiff shaft as opposed to a regular shaft? Thank you.
Quite possibly. Ultimately, if the shaft weight balance profile is more appropriate in the stiff than the regular, there can be some shafts actually develop weight from a regular to a stiff to an X per flex. Some can go up 4 or 5 grams between the flex denominations. So in that instance, yeah, quite possibly, but it is not the flex doing it, it's the weight, and therefore allowing you, the weight is allowing you to time the shot better and control the face more, not the flex.
Well said.
I was just about said in English.
And Andy Corso, the previous missed putt did the mental damage. Yes, I think you're probably quite right there, Andy. Gary Satterfield goes on to say, I think I'm being too behaved. Well, potentially so.
One thing I will say about US Open, that is one of the best majors I've watched for a very long time. As a whole 4 rounds.
I'd agree.
The drama, the jeopardy that's involved, the risk-reward element to it, I thought that was stunning.
And I think a few of the holes actually started to have a bit of a standout, didn't they? You actually started to get a bit of a flavour. It's so difficult when you have the Masters as your first major of the year, that you know all of the holes, and then you have 3 tournaments, particularly for us Brits watching 2 in the US, the US Open and the PGA Championship. We don't really get a flavour of knowing the golf courses because of the rota. When you start to get a bit more older in the tooth, when you go and watch Troons and St Andrews and all the various open courses, again you can start to see the holes and remember the holes. So I do think that we suffer a little bit of the enjoyment of these major championship golf courses on the back of the Masters, but as you rightly say, I think that was a real standout event.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the course setup, I think they got it. It was on the limit a couple of times, but it was never. I don't think it was ever over the limit. I think they got it spot on.
I agree. Who have I not? Where have I? Always, yeah. So Josh Wright, sorry. It would also be sore for Bryson if the shoe was on the other foot, but surprised the live play player could cope with a fourth day of golf. Sorry, Turhan.
I think those arguments we can now put to bed a long time ago. These guys should be given world ranking points, and so that we don't have to worry about are they going to get in or not, because they're quite clearly good enough. Bryson's never not been good enough. And by the way, what an example to the rest of those pros about how to treat the crowd.
Yeah.
Whether it's a kind of a marketing thing or not, I think the vast majority of it's genuine. But how good has he been? How good was he at that? And I think that's a great example to all the guys on tour.
I've talked to one of the other lads at work about this, and I think having 3 years of playing on live and week in, week out, bone of contention, having cash in the pocket, no cut, they're able to enjoy it, interact with the crowd, put on a bit of a showpiece, and I think that really came through in the first 3 rounds. It was slightly different. It was a bit more, got to get down to business on the last day. But I do think that, plus a bit of maturity for Bryson, I think
definitely.
that was part of why he came out being the guy he was. Doesn't have to, week in, week out, feel like he's got to fight his classmates. And I think that showed, showed in his attitude on the golf course. I mean, that on Saturday, when he said to the crowd, "Don't boo me, lads, I'm going to lay up."
Yeah.
Amazing. As he went on an absolute clanger of a shot. But nevertheless, he then whipped it out of the trap, knocked it stoners, and I think he knocked it in for birdie. I just think that golf is missing a trick when if you've got guys that have been elsewhere and then they're coming back and with attitudes like that, I think it's a great testament to.
Yeah, and what would you rather watch? Would you rather watch that and someone who interacts and clearly enjoys being out there, or, and he's a great player, Patrick Cantlay?
Yeah.
Dull as anything.
Yeah.
I can't.
Dishwater.
I can't. I admire his quality of play, but I cannot stand watching.
Yeah, agreed. Horse racing legends, welcome back. Good evening. Enjoyed the US Open cracking course. Simon, could you do a comparison between an X100 and an S300 115 mid, please? These O-band shafts haven't worked for me. Thank you.
Right.
Simon will go off on his merry way. I will answer one question from Nick, Nippon 950. You're going to talk about, so I'm going to ask that after Simon's finished there. Innocent Zone Ches. Hello, Stuart. How are you? I am very well, thank you very much. My name is Innocent, but are you? And I'm from Washington, DC. I've played at Chevy Chase Golf Course down in DC. Have you ever played it? It was about 120 degrees at the time, and there was 4 of us playing, and we had 2 caddies for 4 bags, and they were in full overalls, and it was just the hottest day I've ever played on the golf course. And these 2 guys just lugged bags around. It was just savagery. Anyway, I digress. I'm a big fan of your work, thank you, and I'm thankful that I got the opportunity to accidentally discover me on YouTube. Well, there you go. You're welcome.
Happy accident.
Happy accident. Yeah.
So it was the S3 and the X1 in the Dynamic Gold Mids 115.
I don't know. X1, S3.
So I mean, you are, in terms of comparing these, I mean, ultimately there's not an awful lot between them. They're the same shaft, just in slightly different flexes, slightly different weights. From the Oban shaft that you were mentioning, you couldn't get much more different. So the Oban shaft's much more evenly weighted, higher balance point. These are right down the tip end. However, it has been requested, therefore it shall be done. So this is the S300 first. So you say 115, fairly mid-weight, but they swing very much in the bottom end. So relative to how I've got to swing, I've got to work this through a little bit. But it's a stable shaft. It's not harsh, designed to kick it up in the air a little bit. Airmailed that pin, but 5,400 on spin. I've got it in the T100, so 5,400 on spin, solid hit. That's I guess that's all I can really say about that. There's a little bit of response through the tip, but it's not a soft feeling shaft. I'll move on to the X100. So it's a couple of grams heavier, a little bit stiffer. But what does that mean from a shot point of view? So pickup's just a little heavier. Can certainly feel that little bit of extra weight through the body of the shaft. So again, I've got to work that through. Let's see, that's quite repeating. That's basically landed on top of it. So spin 5,425 and pretty much landed on top of the other shot. So ultimately, it's about 2 grams heavier and it's got an X on it. And that's basically it. Feels slightly tighter, but between these two shafts, and I think that's really the message about going between a regular and a stiff, or a stiff and an X in the same model. There's nigh on no difference apart from the weight difference between them. There's the odd shaft where the profile and the balance changes very slightly, but it's not going to be a lot. So all you're really seeing is, does the slightly heavier weight of the X1 versus the S3 swing better for you or not? But results-wise, basically the same.
Very good, very good. Hopefully that was enough insight for you.
But very different than the O-bands. So
legends.
Very different in terms of how they swing.
Chi therapy. I realised today that I forget all my lessons in golf. Hang on, let me read that again. This sounds poignant moment. I realised today that I forget all my lessons in golf the moment I am on the golf course again. One day I play scratch and the next day high 80s. How to remember? Well, just more reps on the range doing what you want to do. With a bit of luck, it'll hang around a bit longer on the golf course. But invariably, wind, conditions, lies, shots, strategy, psychology all play a role in how you perform, not to mention a bit of nutrition. So the game is tricky. It's over 5 hours with many various different clubs, lengths, shafts. So give yourself a bit of break, I would say, but more reps on the range.
Have a card with some key words on. If you're trying to remember, like some people write things on their glove.
Don't be a plonker.
If there's a key word or a key thing that or a feel that you want, write it down. That way you can relate. You can not relate to it. You can revert to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop you doing that in tournament. It's really just a little bit of a mental key.
Very much so. Chong An Yap. With rapid advancement in AI, what do you think will happen to golf club fitting and even golf instruction in the next 3 to 5 years? Good question.
Well, fitting-wise, I think what we're going to see are more tools to determine, like for example, when you swing, where you load the shaft, how you load it, to determine why the best profile of shaft is going to work for you. Because if you're stressing a particular part of the shaft with how you move, then the best bend profile of shaft will load and unload most consistently. There's going to be, I think, consistency in terms of coaching and fitting in. We're already starting to see it in terms of some of the tech being used to look at how you move, identify kind of, I guess, sort of rotation rates. I mean, you're already starting to use some of this stuff. We're about to do a kind of a catch up on it shortly. But I think there's a huge amount of analysis that's going to be available without having to put
cover your club fitting. I'll do the golf coaching.
Yeah. So from a club fitting point of view, I think really data on rotation rates of hands and I think acceleration ratios, but also most importantly how the shaft's bending and where.
Yeah. Well, with golf coaching, we used to have to put lots of sensors all over our bodies and they were connected up to a PC, which was very cumbersome. Now we've got these AI sports box is one of them that allows you to take a video and it gives you all of the angles, speeds, kinematic sequences, lift, sway, thrust, all the various ingredients. And if you want to see a little bit of it, go over and check out a video I did that came out yesterday on my channel, Good Golf Coaching. It gives you an insight into how we can move in an avatar, look at it from all the different angles. I think that's as big a development now that I can have a video up that can give a measurable amount. And I was with some clients today, they found between 8 and 15 degrees of hip rotation and a little bit more in shoulder rotation. They could see it in front of them on the plasma, associate it with the drill that they're doing, whereas you wouldn't be able to see 8, 9, 10 degrees of hip rotation on the eye. You might see more, but you wouldn't be able to quantify it, and I think that's the difference when you take the human out of it and you start to be able to get an avatar. So I think there's a lot coming with AI when it comes to golf coaching and fitting. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And fitting, it'll also help to make fittings quicker. What it can't do is it can't take away actually hitting it and seeing does it actually swing right for you from a levers and a weighting point of view. That's the one bit that at some point there will be an advancement that will help with that. But there's also the feel aspect that the player's got to like. So I think it, as an augmentation, the two together can make a more efficient, quicker, more accurate fitting for sure. 100%.
Nick goes on to say on my channel, Nippon 950 Neo shafts with 88 miles per hour, SSW7 iron, Ping Tour black shaft in driver at 105 plus miles an hour, either hitting irons or driver well, rarely both. Possible cause for this?
One of the shafts is wrong. Your ultimately the Tour black is a structure a little bit more stable and proportionately a little bit heavier. The irons, the 950 Neos, are a very, very neutrally weighted shaft, but proportionally a little bit lighter. So basically you've got two parts of the bag that are set up slightly differently. It's not, it's hard to say which one's right. The chances are the driver shaft's the one that's that's more correct. However, that's not a guarantee. But yeah, they're not quite aligned from a weight point of view.
Very good. Let's answer a couple more on my channel. So Innocent Zone goes on to ask, I have a question for you. Before transitioning into your style of swinging, I used to focus on pulling down with the driver, which generated a lot of speed, 350 yards, lucky you. I'm trying to understand how I can generate more club speed with your form. What adjustments can I make to increase my speed while maintaining the principles of your swing technique driver? That is an absolute question that I cannot answer because I don't know what your golf swing is. So I would be rambling on and giving you complete 100% guesswork. So don't wish to be evasive on that one, but I can't give you any ideas on that, unfortunately.
I mean, if you're already hitting it 350,
I would stick with it.
Then do you need more speed?
Yeah. Yeah, that
or
would
can you
be my
donate
question.
some to us?
Yeah, well done. A good point there, Simon. Very good point. Jason Dawson, how much does gripping down affect the balance and or swing weight of the club, and how would you swing to accommodate this?
So gripping down at technically half an inch, you're dropping about a couple of swing weight points. So there is a strong argument, and I'm not going to speak for Stuart, but I believe you've got a strong view on this of why would you grip down it? Why would you change the way the club swings? You can swing with a slightly smoother tempo to change distances. Actually, Henrik Stenson never hit half shots. He was either 7 yards long or 7 yards short maximum, which actually most of our tolerances are way more than that. So there's a very strong argument to say don't bother gripping down it. But gripping down, I would not, unless you're playing an incredibly specialist shot that you've got to grip almost to the shaft, I would say don't grip down more than a centimetre or half an inch or so, because you will materially impact the balance of the club. If you go down an inch, you're losing 4 or 5 swing weight points.
And you're affecting the way your levers work. You're making the golf club lighter. If you're making the golf club lighter, that thing isn't going to swing like it did when it was heavier. Take a kettlebell, take 2 kettlebells, one at 20 kilograms, one at 5 kilograms, swing them around. Do they swing the same? No. Well, we are incredibly, or the weight of the golf club has an incredible impact. That's why we have a gazillion shafts here to match you up right. You then grip down and then you change the mechanics of it, and you're trying to make it easier, but actually you've made your golf swing feel completely different. So I would adamantly disagree with gripping down at all costs. At all costs.
I mean, the only thing that possibly, if you're gripping down a bit, you're probably swinging a bit smoother. Are you putting as much energy into the club? You might even them up, but there's a might element to it. So there is an argument to say, well, don't add another variable in by gripping down.
Josh Wright asks, did the Cobra 3D printed sets get snapped up, and do you have thoughts on how long it will be before they have a genuine mass market production like they now do with the putters?
I think the mass production, I mean, clearly they're building it out for that, and we've got 2 sold, 2 more fits coming in for them, so 1 set currently in principle still available to us. They end up about 3,000 a set, but you have to buy them in the 4-through pitch because they're only available as the sets. Right. I think currently they were at about 30, 32 heads per day manufacturing, so that's clearly something they've got to upshift quite a lot. But I think there's huge potential from 3D printing from the heads. So 500 sets globally, as James just pointing out there. So it's still very much in its infancy from that standpoint. So I would imagine we're looking at another year or 2 before there's any kind of greater volume available. However, if they've gone well, Cobra are certainly pushing on that front, and they've seen some real, I think, technological gains within these heads from what's possible for them. So I think we'll see it in the grand scheme of things relatively quickly, but relatively quickly could be 2 or 3 years.
Very good. Richard Skinner asks, great show. Thank you so much, Richard. Good to have you along. Could you provide a comparison between the Callaway AI Smoke TD and the AI Smoke TD Max 9 degree equipped with a Ventus Black 6S shaft?
Certainly can, but I'm going to move this off a green from a target point of view.
So I'm going to answer a little question from Ida Golfo. He's been commenting recently quite a bit on my channel, must be a new subscriber. So thanks for all the kind words you've been saying just recently. Stu, do you feel like your left wrist is cupped in transition from backswing to impact? To me, it looks like your wrist is fairly neutral at the top, your swing handle down, cup wrist. I absolutely don't corrupt the shape of my wrist at all at the top. I let my grip define that, and the pull and load on the shaft define that. If it were to get a little bit pulled and bowed, I wouldn't change that. If I suffered with a shut face through strike, I might alter my grip because of it. If I pulled it and cupped it, then I might, and I've got a face that's a bit open through strike, I might alter my grip to offset that. But when you do something consistently, is that not the point? So if you do something consistently, whether your wrist angle changes or just work around it, particularly a wrist angle when you pull, because that's a really dynamic moment in the golf swing. The club's loading, you're pulling, you're moving. To then try to corrupt and change the wrist at that point, man, that's difficult. That real energized point in your golf swing. So I don't fiddle about with my wrist angles at all. I just grip it right.
Corrupt, that's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of, my own comment on that would be, I think there's, with the likes of Dustin and John Rahm and these guys, Koepka with bowed wrists, I think there's a lot of questions about that actually, I'd snap my wrist trying to get into that position. I couldn't possibly force it there.
Yeah, I mean, but when you've gripped it a certain way for so long, and a lot of these idiosyncrasies come from junior golf. I mean, you can imagine Dustin Johnson, when he was a kiddie, having a club that was too heavy for him, and as he pulled it, the club sort of bowed under stress, and that just probably just stayed with him and played with him, and then the coach just sort of taught him how to hold on to it. So those strong idiosyncrasies are not to be copied. We've got Innocent Zone asking maybe what exercise do you do to increase your swing? Well, get yourself warmed up and swing like a lunatic. That would be the best way.
You hit it 350.
But if you've got it 350, I'm not sure.
I mean, unless you're going to do world long drive stuff, you're going to gain more from getting the thing in play.
Yeah. And if you're hitting it 350, you've got, I mean, at 350 at a club course, I mean, I don't know where you play, but if you're at a club course and your course is 6,800 yards long, which is a decent course off the backs, and you're hitting it 350, I mean, you just take a driver around, maybe a 4-iron, a 5-iron, and some wedges.
Yeah, you're not going to need your driver that often.
Yeah.
You think that's up there with the the longest drives of the week at Pinehurst were around the 350 mark.
Yeah.
And these are the longest, the best players in the world.
But I also think that you get that point where at 350, you're probably hitting your wedge at 160.
Yeah.
So you've got to go from 160 down to 50 yards with a couple of clubs. And I just think that is such a difficult thing to have, to work with. You've got, as opposed to the other end of the spectrum, the guy that's hitting it 300, they're probably hitting their wedge at 155.
140 probably.
Yeah. All of a sudden they've got way less to have to sort of cram in, and they can still play full shots. So just be cautious, keep searching out. Once you get to 350,
you're long at whatever level you're playing, other than unless you're playing against Carl Berkshire.
Yeah.
I think there's been so much conversation about speed and distance, and focus on it, but actually you've already got it.
Yeah.
You've got it in spades.
But I also think the conversation has died a little bit, don't you? I mean, I think you see Rory hitting out there, you see Bryson hitting out there, but I think the conversation of look how far he hits it has really started to tail off. I think Bryson leaving the scene, Rory sort of backing away from hitting it a long way. He's already, hits it far enough now. I think that conversation has quietened. Undoubtedly, guys hit it a long way, but I don't think people are. Once you get to 350, you're done.
You're overpowering. You've got too much for most of the courses. And ultimately, we all know what won and lost the tournament.
Yeah. Wasn't
the other end of the hole.
Yeah, exactly.
So starting with the triple diamond, with both of them I've got the heavier weight at the back, so it's a fair comparison. So let's see how short I can be, having talked about 350.
Yeah, good luck.
Oh, I'm going to need another swing of that. That was horrible.
Whipped her out the toe.
Yeah, I see. That's an example of gearing helping you, that's for sure. That was a horrendous swing. Let's give it one more. Right. Got a little underneath it, but so it's very, very solid feeling head. The triple diamond is a low spin model. The weight's not too far away from the face, even with weight back, but still quite a bit of forgiveness from these heads. But you can see their spin at 1964 revs. Got a little underneath it, so spooned it up slightly. But it's ball speed wise, low spin, the triple diamond has been very, very good. We've had good results with the Max so far. It's a little bit of a bigger footprint, so moves the shaping ahead a bit more towards the standard Max model. However, still without the markings on the top, still a nice clean square club face, but a little bit more to look at there. Kind of looks like it's got a little bit more loft on it as well. So better swing, but feel-wise it's a little less firm, slightly different sound to it. But definitely you can notice more forgiveness there. It feels like there's a little bit more face to play with there. We'll see where the spin is on that one. 2498. Now I got the other one a little higher up the face, but this is the main difference of this model. It's not a high spin head, but it doesn't have that little bit of a nosedive element that the triple diamond can have. So for somebody who still wants that ability to move the weight back and forth, but the lower spin end of things, but again, a bit of forgiveness to the head. Very good model. But I've been very impressed with that, actually. It's been good.
Excellent stuff. Nice hitting.
Eventually.
Richard, Danny, does the game improvement irons will hurt your score or performance as a mid to low handicap compared to player irons or blades?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, the only area you might have found an argument for that really was there are some heads where the face is designed to get very fast, and that takes spin down. So some heads are just a bit hot, so you end up with a little bit of distance control, potentially distance control issue, or launch angle issue if you've got a low centre of gravity and a shorter iron. If you're a more adept player, you're going to strike higher up the face, and it can pop the ball up a little bit. But having said that, Monty used essentially a game improvement head to get to world number 2. So it does not stop you shaping it. It does not stop you being consistent with it. But the head style has to suit the launch and spin that your swing needs. But will it stop you improving? No. But there are elements where you might gain a little bit of flight control and a more solid feel out of a less forgiving head.
Very good. Ida Golf says, thanks so much, man. You are very welcome. Innocent Zone Chairs. Stuart and Simon, you both are amazing. I can't wait to meet you guys in person and do a private lesson with you. Our pleasure. Ida Golfo, 350, yes please. I'll take a baby draw, and 285 anytime. Yeah, me too.
Sounds like a trip out to America.
Yeah. Gary Satterfield, back to work. I'll watch the rest later. Great show. Thanks, Gary, and good luck with the work. So we go on to horse racing legends. Thank you so much, Stuart and Simon. I thought the X100 was a 130 gram shaft compared to the 115 for the mid S300.
Okay, so I went the mid 115 and the S300 and the mid 115 X100. Yeah, I mean the X100, yeah, it's another 15 grams heavier. It's a completely different animal. So it's really what weight's gonna, they're both good shafts, mid spin, mid launch in principle, but either 130 grams is gonna suit you with a bit of tip balance, or 115 grams is gonna suit you with a bit of tip balance. So ultimately, watching me hit them, I just swung the 115 miles better because 130 is way too heavy for this
chassis,
this strong frame that I have.
So Chung and Yap, could Brooks Henderson choking down by 1 to 2 inches on the driver because wanting a softer tip, lower kick to launch it higher despite a super long shaft?
So Brooke gripping down is something she's always done, and actually with someone who's always done it, you would actually build the club around her gripping it there. So actually she's not gripping it down, she's not gripping some of them at the top and some of them down, she's gripping all of them down. It's not changing the bend profile, it's not changing the way the shaft reacts. It's literally, that's where she's built a comfort blanket of gripping it. Per-Erik Hansen years back used to grip it down about 1 inch.
Oh my goodness, he was a biggie, wasn't he?
And that's just, the consistency there, they're both not exactly the tallest. So they probably played clubs that were standard length and they were too long, and they just gripped them to a comfortable place and created a habit of doing that. And you build that habit into the clubs for someone like that.
Yeah, very much so. Well said. Sam G, when soft tipping an iron, 6 iron, 7 iron, do you keep the same length or cut it to match the iron? Example, does a soft tipped 7 iron have the length of a 6 iron, or is it cut to a 7 iron length?
So soft stepping is where you just put the 6 iron shaft and the 7 iron to soften it a bit and take a gram or so out. You still build it to the 7 iron spec, because you don't want a 7 iron at a 6 iron length, otherwise you just make it really long, really heavy. But all you're doing is, it's a bit like tip trimming a wood shaft or leaving it untrimmed. So a soft step makes the shaft swing a little bit easier, it's a hair lighter, and a hard step, you're putting the 8 iron shaft and a 7 iron, it's about a gram heavier, making it structurally a little bit firmer. That is all you're doing, it's changing the weight and a little bit of flex, but mainly the weight very slightly, but you always build it to the same length and spec of the club that it's going into. Or you should always build it to the length and spec of the club it's going into.
Steve Furland, have you ever used the Mizuno Shaft Optimizer or the Wilson version? Thoughts? ?
No, for a very good reason. What they do is they're trying to put it out into a mass environment where they're trying to give the fitters of varying skills a start point to work from. There was a video I saw on Instagram of a guy that said the Mizuno Optimizer could tell you what head, what shaft, basically what swing weight, what ball they should play, complete load of something impolite that I can't say on this channel, or I choose not to. It can't tell you that. It can't tell you what shaft weight to use, it can't tell you what swing weight. It's trying to get a baseline to idiot-proof the selection within the options that they offer, and it can't do any more than that. So the answer is no.
Very good. Innocent Zone Ches, Thank you so much. I'm just a former tennis player at transition to golf, at transition of golf to tennis, or tennis to golf, but I'm all golfing now. Thank you so much for the advice. You're welcome. Martin Horlock.
Based on that, I wouldn't want to face one of those serves.
No, exactly. Martin Horlock, lovely to hear from you, Martin. Yeah. He had a knee replacement, so slowly getting back to hitting balls after total knee replacement last year. I remember. It's so lovely to hear from you. Yeah. Do you think my clubs fitted by Simon 2 years ago would need adjusting to suit possible change in swing?
I mean, there's a definitely maybe answer to that. I think it just depends how, as you get back up to strength and fitness, how mobile, you might find you more mobile with the knee replacement. So, but it's going to be a case of how you're playing with them as you get back into playing. There might be a slight change potentially, but I think it's a case of get back into playing, and then we can have a check over and see if there's anything. See if it's just a short-term fix that actually will develop through in no time at all and get back to using them, or whether it's something we need to have a little look at to mitigate.
Thanks so much for dropping us a line, Martin. Super lovely to hear from you.
Great to hear from you, yeah.
Ida Golfo, opinions on Takamo or Ben Hogan irons. Do either of you have any experiences with direct-to-consumer clubs? I've heard great things about both companies. I have no experience at all.
But Hogan as a brand have been great quality over the years. They've gone in and out of existence a couple of times. They've been bought and sold by various companies, and the original, the base products derive from very good quality products. The moment you go direct to consumer, you're going lower cost to consumer, but something like Tacomo, whilst the designs are very, very solid, what you are going to get is more tolerances. So the tolerances are greater. We've seen some interesting loft and lies through sets that have come in. So that's the one thing. They provide an entry into golf equipment at a lower price point, which is fantastic. But that does come at the cost of QC, quality and consistency product to product. Doesn't mean they don't perform very well, but some of the lofts and lies and head weights have been a little bit variable from what we've seen. Not necessarily from Hogan, but they've just not been as available of late.
Niall McCloskey, what type of irons would suit someone who picks the ball with shallow delivery? Miss tends to be low on the face.
You don't want to go too wide on the sole, because otherwise the back edge is going to catch if you tend to catch it right at the bottom of the arc. If you go wide sole, you're adding bounce essentially. So a low centre of gravity head with a narrower sole. So depending on what your launch and spin is, something like a T100, T150 that's not too wide on the sole, or a P770, one of those where you can get the mass of the club down to the bottom of the ball, pick the flight up, but that doesn't have a really big wide sole to get in the way of the contact.
Something like that.
Very nice, very nicely modelled by Stuart.
Well, they're my
all
weapons.
The best players use those.
Well, I didn't want to say it. Richard Skinner, thoughts on mid drivers? I just purchased a TM Burner mini driver. Absolute weapon, like it. Callaway has just launched an AI smoke version. Do you fit for them? Would you game one?
Would I game one? No, because I drive the ball well, and then I want to use my 3-wood as a fairway wood, or I wouldn't be using a mini driver because I want a fairway wood and I want a driver. Driver's going to be longer, and a fairway wood's better off the ground. They're designed for those purposes. The mini literally came in today, followed about a month after. Grab one of those. Followed about a month after the Triple Diamond Max. Look at that, that's a good. He's doing a lot of gym training now. He's fast. Get almost as fast as his wife, nearly. So the Callaway Mini driver isn't that mini. It's actually it's a 340cc. So it helps to put it near the camera. Still in the wrapper. Literally came in this afternoon. So there. It'll be interesting to test these ones. We will be fitting for them. They're very limited in terms of models. We've got 8 11.5 and 8 13.5 degree heads. 2 of those we'll put into the fitting bays. So we'll have 7 of each for retail. But if you're not confident with the driver, if you prefer the shorter shaft length, or if you trap it, if you hit down on it quite a lot, then the smaller head where you can move the weight forward could be a brilliant option for you. But there's a reason why they are limited production run. They're what they call kind of hero products. And ultimately they're getting as close to the best of both worlds as they can, but you're always going to hit a fairway wood better off the ground because the head's smaller and you can get the CG into the bottom of the ball better. But there are quite a lot of players that these are actually pretty useful for.
Isn't that the name of an actress, Mini Driver?
Yes.
Should be having a full set of those. James Doherty, I was fitted with the Mizuno Optimizer, fitted me into Project X IO 6.0. Horrible for me in transition, too heavy and stiff. Got fitted at PG and going into steel fibre I80s and a little bit different.
I mean, this is the problem. Is it throws out a
Horrible.
range of options. Yeah, a range of options, but it's doing it based on a box on a shaft that in principle is measuring a little bit of bending of it. How can that tell you? You can't tell you what weight you're meant to be swinging. So anything that throws out, I've seen it throw out a Nippon 950 at 95 grams and a Dynamic Gold at 130.
Hey ho.
Still requires someone with a bit of knowledge to interpret.
Yeah. Jason Dawson, follow up to gripping down question. Did we not tell you, Jason? No, just joking. I was told to never swing full with a wedge. Absolutely, never do that. And so to grip down and swing smoother, and hence my wedges are fit heavier than irons. Have I misunderstood the advice? Yeah, I mean, gripping down and then swinging short, you've had a double whammy there, haven't you? So I would say never flat out with a wedge, swing smoothly, but you've got the same, it's like, again, the kettlebell analogy, you could swing the kettlebell this far, you could swing the kettlebell this far, couldn't you? Same weight. If it's built to you, the kettlebell, then it'll be more in control. But you suddenly start changing the weight around. That swinging element, that swing down at the bottom where that weight unloads, you make that lighter, gives you a sense of, well, like swinging a bit of bamboo compared to swinging a bit of lead. Two very different sensations. So I swing slow or swing smoother, but don't grip down.
Yeah, and the only potential caveat that I can think of for that is, yes, a lot of players do regulate distance by going down a half an inch with the wedges. The only caveat to it might be if you've got a specialist, I mean, Sevi used to be almost on the shaft for some, and if you're trying to play a shot which requires manipulation of the face, which is a very high level skill to do, and I'm not advising this, then what going down the shaft allows you to do is to basically flick that underneath a little bit more if you are trying to play a particularly specialist shot around the greens. But it's really in that kind of scenario that you would be doing that. By making it lighter, you can Zorro it a bit more. But there's a good reason why a lot of players fat, thin and shank wedge shots, because they've changed the lever and changed the way it swings.
Well, I mean, we mentioned him at the top of the show. Bryson DeChambeau is chipping around with 5-iron length wedges. Yeah. So if he's not gripping down it, and incidentally, he played a shot into 13, par 5?
10.
Back 9? 10, was it? From 50 yards. Yeah. Didn't grip down on it. Just dead armed it. Little pitch shot from 50 yards. He's using a 5-iron length shaft. So why would you be gripping down it? I just don't. I
think it's something that there's convention over the years. Has been something that has been taught, that has been done as a practice.
Agreed.
So I've certainly done it, and there are some shots that I just default to it because it's something that I've done over time. But actually, as you say, you actually think about it logically. Why would you? Yeah. Because you're adding a variable in which we're all perfectly qualified to mess shots up without adding variables in. So it's hard enough at the best of times, so why make it more difficult?
Yeah, 100%. Tim G, so did I say, Chris Shanks. Hi Simon, do you still do custom fits? How can somebody book with you?
I do, but my diary isn't visible online, simply because my diary is more restricted. However, if you want to either email me directly or call the studio and we can schedule something in from there.
Richard Skinner, brilliant show.
Thank you for asking, Molly.
Richard Skinner, brilliant show. Thank you so much, Richard. Love the real-time answers and bespoke club testing. I appreciate your energy and versatility. You are very welcome.
Very kind, thank
Tim
you.
G, ignore my question. I'll go back 15 minutes. Well, look, we've got 5 minutes left. I think I'm going to take you on with a little nearest the pin somewhere.
We could put it on an Troon?
Troon, postage stamp.
Postage stamp.
Why not? Why not? Let's stick it on. If you've got any more questions.
Never knowingly not
Tim
enjoyed
G says
it.
down the shaft, stiffens the shaft, lowers the launch, lowers
Doesn't
the
really
spin,
stiffen it doesn't change the shaft at all.
flattens
The
the line,
shaft doesn't get
steepens-
stiffer.
Yeah,
The shaft doesn't change. Just where you grip it is the only change.
It normally helps me fade it. All got different sensations. All got different sensations. James Doherty, is there still spaces on the Costa Navarino trip? Yes, there is. James, it is the 2025 trip now. So drop us an email, stuart@precisiongolf.co.uk. And if you're interested, I'll send you some info and get you hooked up to that trip. And of course, if you want to be on the winning team, you'll need to be playing with myself. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Postage stamp. How far?
So it's amazing how you've gone from. Should we go? Let's go. Gusty.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
3 attempts.
Oh yes. Oh, I did a little workout yesterday at home, outside, on concrete. Phew. Almost like. Go on, James. Isn't it marvellous? Isn't it marvellous? So, closest to the pin. How far is it?
Well, it's the postage stamp.
Yeah, still means.
I don't know yet. It depends where the pin is.
And the wind.
Yeah, and the wind. It's gusty though, so it could be interesting. You're
Gusty.
first.
Oh,
So it's
lovely.
114,
114.
and 17 miles an hour off the right.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, wonderful. This will be absolutely splendid. I thought I came down with a glove, didn't I? Getting all serious. I'm sure I had a glove in my hand. Oh, anyway. Well, I've got a little 9-iron here.
Oh, cheeky.
I know. I'm going to go little 9-iron. And I'm going to try and...
Didn't think it was going to be that much wind.
Well, do you mean for a 9-iron?
Just when it said gusty, I thought it might be,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it was going to be
So it's out the... It's
17 miles an hour out the right.
out the right.
Good luck.
Yeah. All right. I'm not sure this
So
is the right
what's
time.
your thought process over this? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well,
when you-
good question. So
it's now only 9. Oh, no, it's 9 from 14, right? Yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to be aiming straight at the flag, and I'm going to point the face where I want to launch the ball.
Okay.
And so my path line and the face line are going to cut it up.
Right.
With the rather than aiming right and then trying to hold it, I want to aim straight with that kind of wind.
Oh, with that
and
kind of wind, okay, yeah.
Open the face up, and then bleed it. But of course, that's going to take a lot off of it. So I'm fancying that's going to play probably around 145,
Hence you're taking the
hence the
heavier club.
9-iron.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I've got my club face aiming at that box down in the right hand corner there, and then I'm going to try and push one in. Oh, I tell you what, that's absolutely rubbish.
No, it's long, but it's on the dance floor.
It's on the dance
Okay.
floor. I tell you what, I'm going to take that. I was quite pleased. I mean, I'd just like to 40 feet and 6
yeah,
inches.
take that.
Just like to let everyone know that I came down from a client,
Oh, you do?
Christos,
Yeah.
coaching him. Simon was deep in hitting balls. Oh, we've got 2
Yeah,
goes.
I've done 3 goes.
Oh,
so I thought,
3 goes.
I thought
Oh,
of it,
okay,
yeah.
like it.
So it's interesting that you do, because I do it the other way. I'll actually sort of take an aim point and to hit at and let the wind take
Yeah.
it rather than fight it too much. Because I don't like. So if I
Trouble with that is
I've
that
always been uncomfortable like holding against the right to left
Right,
because
yeah.
my natural shot's been the other
Yeah,
way. So I
yeah.
find I take too
Yeah.
much off.
Yeah, so I'm going to a little bit more open face and a bit more trap.
Trap on this hole is a deep trap.
Down.
Look at that. Just too strong
not-
for you. It's all that gym work.
That's not bad. That's not bad. 2 from 2.
To hit that green twice with that side wind, that is, as much
Yeah,
as I'd love
well-
you to have missed one, that is actually quite
I've
impressive.
got one more. I might knock this in. Grip it down. You shut your face.
Half an inch down, three-quarter swing, thin. Thin might be quite good on this hole today, actually.
Oh, I think that's got a very good chance of being close. Oh, come on, go in, go in. Oh,
Okay.
I was pleased with that.
They're three.
They're three. They're
Actually,
down the banner.
quite
24
impressive
feet.
shots.
24 feet.
Quite a mistake.
24 feet.
I do it the other way with this. If I oh yep, he's announced
20 here all week. Just saying.
Okay. So for me, on a right to left wind, I'd be more comfortable drawing into a left to right wind. Into
But
a right to left wind, I'd find I kind of,
Right.
it's just a shot I've never been as comfortable with. So I'm going to aim just right at the green, just basically hit a straight shot and let the wind take it
Good
with a
luck with
little pitch wedge,
All right.
which
like
is
it.
tougher when I can't really see where I'm aiming. But,
Yeah, like it. Be digging it out of the. So I coached a player. Yeah, good luck with
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's gone left, isn't it?
I coached a player at this event, and
Oh, that's miles.
yeah,
Look at that. That's a shocker, isn't it?
that bunker on the left-hand side is not fun.
So I've got to aim further right than that.
So we played a practice round with
Because
Nick.
only about 1,000 feet left. Don't
We played a practice round with Nick Faldo, and my player Matt Hazelden was seriously long, and Nick had played
Need to go
5
down the club.
holes with us, 6 holes with us. Got to the postage stamp and said, "Sorry lads, I'm going to drop back and play with the others. I can't keep watching you hit it that far." It was ever so funny. So you've changed.
So
clubs,
I've actually thought about the wind.
Right.
It's travelling with
As
it, so I've dropped back a club.
as opposed to you didn't think about the wind beforehand.
In terms of,
Just
the thing is when you're out on the course, so that's the
Yeah,
thing in
you
here,
feel it.
you're kind of feeling it and you're thinking, right, the shot's going to go with it.
Yeah.
I've just looked at the yardage and played a quiet pitch wedge, whereas actually,
I think the shot that you're playing with that strong a wind, with that much loft, I think is incredibly difficult.
yep.
Not bad.
Nearly.
Not bad.
Closer. As I
bad.
say, partly if it was the other way round, wind-wise, I'd be much more comfortable.
Yeah.
This way around, fading one into a strong right to left wind, I'd be better at it now than I used to.
Yeah.
But it's just just a shot I'm much less comfortable with.
Yeah.
So let's take it in a little. Yeah, that is quite a strong wind, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
it's just showing why you do it the way you do it.
no. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of
Quite
fun.
disappointing considering the amount of links golf I actually play.
Fun and frolics at the end there. That just about brings this evening's extravaganza to an end. What have we got heading into this week golf-wise? What tournament is on the PGA Tour? Can we remember? Is it Travellers this week?
I really don't know. I mean, there's the
Travellers
ladies
is-
PGA.
ladies, of course. we've
Ladies
got-
major.
look,
Charlie's
yeah,
got out to that.
Yeah,
Charlie and
and
Georgia got out to
yeah.
that.
Georgia Hall.
Newport Country Club, I think.
Yeah, Georgia Hall had a good week last week. She finished top 15, I think. She's been finding some form, so hopefully those two girls have a good week going into their major next week. Busy week for you, as usual?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's going on. We've got seeing some product that I can't talk about this week. I think it's this week, but ultimately, it's. I think there's a little bit of variety of stuff going on. Filming day tomorrow, loads of fits. Yeah,
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, listen, thanks so much for watching. We've really enjoyed our show, and we really appreciate all of the interaction and the questions that you throw our way. Do tell your friends we're here every Monday night, 6 p.m. Thanks for watching from Simon and I. See you next week.